So on record, the Greek Jews helped translate the Bible. They've always had a presence there, the Romanites, not just the Ashkenazi. They're a distinct, separate group. So they were influenced by the Indian philosophers, and there are Indian Jews. And that's why the left, which is controlled heavily by atheistic Jews, you know, push yoga and Eastern philosophy. Basically, to put it in a nutshell, it is preposterous to think that the people who choose to attack black people at churches the most, historically, want them to be a Christian. The Christians are the people who don't fear the white man because they believe in the afterlife. They believe in being a martyr. It is the atheist. It is the non-action believing Buddhist and Hindu. It is the agnostic. It is the pagan. These are the pussies who historically do what the pagan, nihilistic, gay, sodomite-friendly, Greco-Roman, pederasty-friendly elite want them to do. Historically. So as Greco-Roman culture spread and Greco-Roman perspectives, remember, on one side of the Mediterranean, you have, with all due respect, you have these short, kind of ugly Greek guys, right? These kind of short, stubby guys, with little arms, And on the other side of the Mediterranean, you have some of the greatest warriors in the world, okay? So when it comes to the Greco-Roman European scale that makes white people look good, of course they're going to stop at nothing to try to get you to use that scale and to have an enlightenment-friendly, Greco-Jew philosopher-friendly philosophy. It doesn't take a fucking genius to figure that out. Secret societies are the ducks. They go around using different institutions and techniques and strategies to convince the ugly duckling that they are less than a duck. You look at my martial arts challenge, it's a perfect example. On one side of the Mediterranean, you had people like me who would make short work of the fucking short, stubby idiots, right? Short work. We're more athletic, we're more intense, we're more spiritual, we're the civilizers, they're not. We created the martial arts systems, they didn't. For a plethora of reasons, they wouldn't have a chance. So what do? Well, as you go further from Africa to people who expelled further away, again, I have nothing against these people. I love all mankind. But this is what happened, and it has to be said as such. No punches should be pulled. The truth should be told, okay? These are a bunch of pitches who say, look, we're going to redefine martial arts even though we didn't invent them. And we're going to do them in a way that makes us look good, that changes the culture so that you celebrate fucking, depraved, greedy, narcissistic, pedophile-loving scum, instead of traditional warriors with heart. In other words, you get some pipsqueak who can't fight worth a lick, couldn't punch their way out of a wet paper bag, right? You try to put them against someone like me, who can bench press 350 pounds, who's 6'4", 6'5", right? Over 200 pounds. I could sit there tied to a chair smiling while they punch me all day. Get up and fucking headbutt them and they die. Okay? But they want you to believe that they're a greater martial artist than I am. How stupid is that? They're like a little kid compared to me. A little kid. Little black belt. Take a look at my form. Look at my moves. All that is cute and stuff. But that's not what martial arts is about. That's when a bunch of fucking ducks try to convince the ugly duckling that he's less than a duck. Motherfucker, martial arts weren't made for the same reason that gymnastics were, or dancing in general. Martial arts were made for actual combat. If you cannot beat the motherfucker in sparring, sit down and shut the fuck up and listen. Because he is above you. So help me God. So saith the top. Look, I don't care how short you are. Tupac, Bob Marley were short. I don't give a shit. But the fact of the matter is, the average height of a black person and a white person are taller than every other race. Every other race is average height. Okay? And that gave them the edge in combat. And a lot of people like to play stupid about that. It's disgusting. It's pathetic. Furthermore, black people tend to be more athletic than white people. So when you look at martial arts, black people naturally have the edge. And when we look at street fighting and boxing, we see it. Yes, black people do fight better than other races on average. You'd have to be a fucking moron not to see that. So anytime you have a system of martial arts that's designed to shun the race that fights the best, okay? There has never been a time in history where where a black person wasn't the greatest fighter. There has never been a time in history where the average black person wasn't a greater fighter than the average people of any other race. We invented martial arts. We dominate them. We are the best. So these people designed to go, because white people tend to be, look at rednecks, for instance. Look at the protests, right? When you see the protests, you see a bunch of skinny Asians and Jews from Antifa and skinny white guys, right? Little emo guys. And then you see a bunch of big white guys, from the right, right? And a lot of them are Northern Europeans, okay? So they're big and they're kind of stocky, but they're slow. In ancient combat, I could run circles around them, laugh the whole time, take my sweet time, and then cut off their fucking head. You see what I'm saying? So in order to avoid the circumstances that would highlight what every historian knows beyond any doubt, that black people created martial arts, that we fight the best on average and historically, what do? They want you to emphasize Asian martial arts as the ideal art and as who's the best. In other words, whatever kung fu guy puts on the most impressive demonstration, you're going to assume he's a better martial artist than a black guy who could clobber him in no time. Okay? In other words, the guys on TV like Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? These shorter guys who people like me could clobber in no time, right? You're going to assume that they're better, or you're going to say, hey, no one's heard of you, but they've heard of them. It all goes back to the ugly duckling effect, okay? These people will use, in reality, I'm a greater martial artist for the simple fact that in ancient combat, I would destroy them. With a weapon, for example, with a weapon that both of us have never used before, I would destroy them. With spears, I would destroy them. With knives, I would destroy them. With short swords, I would destroy them. And so on. Now, the ducks want you to look at it as from their perspective, which is bullshit. That's why they worshipped Serapis and Apis the bull, because they deal with the bullshit. That's why the Spanish have rituals of killing the bull, because they deal with the bullshit in Europe to the point where some of them are sick of it too. That's why they have rituals where they smear statues in shit, because they want to cover up the truth with a bunch of bullshit. And so on, because this is their philosophy, okay? When you look at things historically, black Africans proved that they were superior naturally, and they expelled everyone else. And ever since then, they've been trying to change your perspective using their religions and their philosophies and their cultures to confuse you about that. And then they created eugenics, the self-direction of humanity, including a self-imposed scale, or a scale given to us by the racist governing class. Okay? Remember, I'm black and I'm half black, half white. I have no reason to fucking lie. Society wasn't racist, I wouldn't be bitter. If this wasn't true, I wouldn't be saying it. If white people didn't do black people way the fuck more wrong than black people do white people, I wouldn't be on black people's side in the minds of people. People just don't use your fucking heads. You let a bunch of pussies that I would murder so fucking fast, that my ancestors expelled so fucking fast, convince you that they're better. The day some slow bodybuilding meathead is a threat to me, that will be the fucking day. I don't care if you could pick up Mars with your pinky. If you cannot fucking touch me before I cut out your fucking heart, what good is it, you pussy? Let me end by saying that in the absence of scripture, in other words, if you're not a Christian and you're making your argument for society, right, you have to resort to using psychology instead of scripture. Because how else are you going to convince people, right? You say, well, I'm going to take a scientific approach. Ultimately, with the lack of scripture and the lack of a religious argument, one's default state in our society is to resort to psychology. Now, if you have such a pathetically inferior argument that you should be shot and your family should be executed on fucking TV for your evil, then you resort to using chemistry and psychiatry. Thank you.